Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Processing with Sam and Malik, a weekly take on life through the lens of husbands, fathers, believers, and of course, Philly sports fans. As always, this episode is brought to you by Sam's Community TV, creating content to establish a community through genuine relationship building. And before we start tonight's episode, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification button so that you're alerted for when each episode airs. And if you enjoy the episode, hit the like button in order to help out the algorithm. So, Malik, how are we doing this week, man?
Hey man, first of all, I just love algorithms, right? I can just love you already hit me with the algorithm.
Hit you with the algorithm. It's funny. That's why I was interested if you watched the Space Jam Algae Rhythm.
So Algae Rhythm, I did see his performance. It was right up there next to his role in he was in Infinity War. He was Rhodey, War Machine, or whatever it was. So Don Cheadle definitely gets high marks in this house. My kids saw it, they loved it. It's old news at this point in time. I thought it was a little bit too much. It was like one long commercial because they had every single Warner Brothers property, but it's not for washed up dads. It's for kids, and that's all that matters. So they enjoyed it.
That's all that matters. They enjoyed it. And my kids also are big fans of Space Jam too. I think I had them watch the original. You know, LeBron James. That's all they can say. And I think
but the thing. Go on, I'm sorry.
No, you got it.
No, I was gonna say the thing that my kids complained about. They were like, "This is what TV looked like." Like, they were throwing so much shit.
Are designed to only see what exists today. It's like, it must be how we feel about looking at parents' old television.
They were like, this dusty ass foghorn leghorn. They were like, y'all ain't nobody better than draw this. Like, my kids were looking at me like, this is why your ancestors died. Like, what are we doing? They were like, yo, y'all did not march for this nonsense. But no, they liked the original. But I think the fact that the latter was far more visually appealing, much like our Sixers were tonight, that was what kind of drew them in.
How about that? And it's funny because I make them watch The Land Before Time because I have access, it seems, to every episode that aired.
Land Before Time, wow.
Yeah, and so even though, they have like an aversion to that kind of TV in terms of the digital capabilities, they will sit through The Land Before Time. But to your point, 76ers win national TV.
Yeah, man. Clap your hands.
Everybody. And that's right. Our guy, unfortunately, was available. We did it. We were really like, not only were we down a big fella who obviously, has been out since recovering. I think there might be some news that dropped throughout the game tonight. I'll let you break that news because I didn't hear it firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just music to everybody's ears. Is that Joel Embiid is reportedly practicing with a goal to be back before the end of the regular season. Obviously, you're going to qualify that because he's not going to come back right away. We know that he's had a history of prolonged injury and conditioning issues, and coming back at the end of the season trying to get back up to the 70-point score that we saw him is not likely. Right. But it's better than rolling out Mo Bamba. It's better than rolling out Paul Reed. So shout out to Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba got it done tonight. Paul Reed was a little suspect.
Right.
But yeah, if he can come back and we actually see what this team might look like for 2 weeks, maybe.
So let's look at the standings. Where are the 76ers right now?
So we were the 6-7 going into tonight. The Heat 6, we were 7, and then obviously tonight's outcome may have affected the standings. But it's a big win.
It's a huge win. It's a huge win for the Sixers. Yep, we are right now. We are in the bracket in terms of officially. Obviously, 2 weeks ago, I think it incentivizes Embiid to come back.
Yeah.
I think there was some scuttlebutt as to whether or not they're going to shut him down for the season because it mum's the word on him. And so the fact that they said something publicly and the team showed moxie tonight, I think is a good sign. I personally believe, Malik, that you can slow pace Joel Embiid back into this offense and it'll still go. And I think it might be one of those recipes that help them be successful throughout the playoffs. Because if you tell Joel, hey, here's how you get in shape. Just be a facilitator. Don't worry about taking on a heavy load. We just want to get your conditioning to at least get on both ends of the floor, be a presence on defense, get in the flow on offense. Don't worry about the shot taking. Just see how the ball moves with your new teammates. You're going to draw attention. You're going to draw gravity. And if they just lay off of you all the way, of course, you can just rock back into your jump shot. But
Yep.
you don't force it. And he doesn't have to force it while getting minutes and help the team win games, because it's marginal sometimes with these NBA games. And I think just his presence alone can be the difference as he gets into a groove going into the postseason where he doesn't necessarily have to be the guy trying to go for 70.
I think you kind of hit on it. If you have the box, you have the box score in front of you right now, or can you pull it up quickly? Because I'm curious of something.
Absolutely.
I think your point about Embiid kind of working into his postseason form, I think it also is applicable to Coach Nurse too, because I'm curious. I haven't looked at it yet, but it felt like he shortened his rotation.
You might be right.
It felt like he short. I didn't look at it yet, so I don't know. I know in the first half we saw Kenyon Martin Jr. We didn't see him a lot. We saw some campaign, didn't see him a lot. Mo Bamba got the lion's share of the minutes, which felt surprising. Do we have it up here? Let's see what we got. I could just be completely talking out my butt, but let's see what we got.
What team are we looking at right now?
That's the Heat there.
The Heat. Okay,
so let's scroll on down.
All right, so points. Okay,
so
22
campaign, 15 minutes. KJ Martin barely set almost 7 minutes.
Yep.
And he burned the starters into the ground, with the exception of Mo Bamba.
Yeah, and look, Nicholas Batum,
56. Right.
That's not good.
Batum didn't play 38 minutes in all of February.
37-56.
You see what I'm saying? We got Kyle Lowry, who was off injured for the entire first half of the season, playing 35 minutes. Maxey on 41. So I think he's saying implicitly that we're at a spot now where we're right on the precipice. We might get Embiid back in time to do something. We got to stay out of the play-in. And I think this is indicative of it right here. This is it.
Yeah, we're going for it. Because here's the other reason I think we're going for it. The other reason I think we're going for it is because I believe that a matchup versus the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 3-6
is ideal,
much more favorable than a 7-2 against those Milwaukee Bucks. And I mean, honestly, if you're in the play-in, anything can happen. So let's not even assume that we land in the 7th seed if we're in the play-in. Play-in is a playoff scenario in itself. So I think obviously in terms of just safety, but that aside, the matchup is favorable in the 3-6 hole.
I mean, how many times have we seen Embiid catch a straight elbow in a random game, right? Or we had, I guess, Markelle Fultz one year. Then we had in the elimination where the series was all but dusted from Siakam or whoever that was. Like, any more opportunities is an opportunity for something to go poorly. And if we're able to stay out of that one game, that's one less chance for an ankle to get sprained or one less chance for somebody to break an eye socket. So, no, I'm all in. If we can get into the 3-6, I think we match up favorably against Cleveland. I would prefer playing them. I know they might be a higher seed, but I think they can be a little bit more contained. The NBA also, I don't know if you've noticed this too, Sam. I was watching this today as well. It looks like they're letting them play more.
There's no ifs and buts about it. And they're publicly talking about it throughout the game. And
yeah.
So, I mean, I'm watching it. I'm seeing guys get hammered. And to me, there's a way to create. See, the NBA they're going about it in a very interesting way, in my opinion, in terms of trying to bring physicality back to the game. I don't think that that's how you do it, by just simply not calling fouls in those moments. I think the way you do it is that hand checking, you make that more permissible. You make bumping as guys are cutting through the lane, you make that more permissible, right? That's where you allow the contact to flow. But in shot making, you can't let guys get hammered and there'll be no call, because then I think you create an unsafe playing environment, because now guys are going to try to, the way they're going to they're going to adjust to the non-calls. And I think the way they adjust to non-calls could put players at risk.
I think the timing is odd because I don't know. Maybe I don't know if this has been the case all season. I feel like it's been a gradual progression where we've started to kind of change our tone. Not ours, but the referees have changed the way they officiate the game. But I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, we're in March now.
Right.
And so you've got playoffs less than 2 months away. And now you've got to get acclimated to a lot of it. I actually am glad it's going to be eliminated. Like, I'm tired of seeing guys bait for calls on a jump shot because someone's off balance and take a shot or jump in a way that you would never jump. I'm tired of seeing guys do like the Chris Paul thing or Kyle Lowry for that matter, where you dribble up and literally just slam on the brakes. But I'm noticing it. I'm noticing it out in the perimeter. There is a lot more hands than I think we previously allowed. And then also I'm noticing it coming around screens. Like, you're seeing dudes get straight, like pulling guards coming around the corner now.
I tell you this much. It doesn't help for guards like a Tyrese Maxey.
No, it is not.
And so that's something I think he's going to the whole team is going to have to figure out, okay, how do we plan to unlock Maxey in the playoffs when this style of officiating is not to his advantage and they're doing it now, so we can't complain about it later.
Well, I'll be curious to see. I agree with you. I'll be curious further to see a couple things. One, the impact it's going to have in B. If he does come back, the fact that you're going to have guys who are able to beat him up more than he already does is going to have an exacting toll. But two, the idea that now you're going to have he could play into the benefit of it. He's able to get his conditioning relatively quickly. He can play into the benefit of, listen, you're going to be able to check guys in the perimeter. So it's not going to be a whole lot of dribble handoffs, wide open threes the way they had been. So you better have a consistent scorer in the paint or a guy who's going to get you into the bonus quickly. And the Sixers have that in the same way that only Jokic maybe and Giannis, I guess. And that's probably the list.
Listen, I'll say this about this iteration of Joel Embiid. And, as we sort of transition, I think that if he does his rim runs the way he was doing this year in terms of just getting down out early in transition and actually stealing early just to get a quick bunny, if he incorporates that back immediately, even as part of his conditioning, that, and also I love the way they just use him around the mid-range, right? So it doesn't require a lot of physicality there. And I think if you do maul him there, it's so obvious that you kind of have to blow the whistle. So I think that there are ways where you can avoid him just having to just battle. But I will say Joel Embiid has looked a lot hungrier in terms of taking advantage of post opportunities. Listen, he's the bigger player. So pick his spots. Like, pick your spots when you want to go for it. And hopefully they'll let you play to get it. And then in the moments where you realize, hey, they're trying to lean on me, I'm fine with you varying outside because you're effective out there as well.
This is the most shooting he's probably had. This is probably the most skill, aside from Jimmy Butler, that he's had on the floor within the top 7. You figure your crunch time group is going to come from Maxey, your boy Tobias, Lowry, Oubre, Batum. I'm sorry?
Healed.
Yes. Right. And so you're trying now to figure out who's your closing group. And all of those guys have the ability to shoot the ball.
Listen, Joel Embiid is going to manufacture open shots. I mean, he's just that player. And I think I cannot wait to see what he and Buddy Hield look like on the floor, just physically on the court together.
I hope they have time. Because tonight, where the Sixers, if Nurse is starting to get his team acclimated to the playoffs, where they're saying, hey, listen, we can't burn a guy 20 minutes, our 8th or 9th man on the bench, 20 minutes. We're going to go with our starters longer. Let's get our legs underneath. We need to get into the top 6. We need to give him a chance to get acclimated. We need a preferable matchup so he can come back and eat. Because it's going to be round 2, Celtics or Bucks in round 2 either way.
Yeah, agreed. So more to come on our 76ers. But last time we had our show, man, we talked about a former Eagle, Jason Kelsey, who had retired, held a press conference, there was no tissue in the building after that. I mean, Kleenex, they could have had a deal there on that one, man. They should have thought that one through. But with that said, a week later, all we get is a post from one Fletcher Cox, who also is a long time one-timer, Eagle for life, decides to hang it up. And just curious on your thoughts. Do you think Fletcher Cox is this kind of player who had the career where we see him in the Eagles Hall of Fame?
It's funny. I think he's definitely in the Eagles Hall of Fame. I don't think there's any question. He was as good, but for Aaron Donald, he was probably as good a defensive tackle. More recently, you've seen Chris Jones kind of assume that mantle with the Chiefs, but he was as good a player as the Eagles drafted, probably on the defensive line since Corey Simon, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've had other names, you've had other guys on the edge, but Eagles, their defensive line has been what has made them successful. It's been kind of their philosophy for some years. Under Andy Reid, you had your Hugh Douglases, you had Derek Burgess at one point in time. You had guys, but it was always built on kind of supporters around the star. And Fletcher Cox from the defensive tackle position was able to rush the passer. He was just straight dominant for years. And there was a period where it was either he or Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald just went to a whole other planet. He's a no question Eagles Hall of Famer. He probably won't be a Hall of Famer, but it doesn't mean he shouldn't be celebrated for his accomplishments and the leadership he provided, particularly through the recent transition with all the coaches that he's been here for. He was exceptional, and he'll be missed. Looks like it's just me. Maybe Fletcher Cox tackled Sam. We will see what is going on, and we will wait until he comes back.
Hey, sorry about that, folks.
No problem. You ain't pay your bill. That's what happens.
Yeah, I was actually, while you were talking, I was engaging with a guest on the show here, asking about the link because, every other episode, we tell people we're dropping the link so they can join us. So I guess the word is out. And in my attempt to drop the link, I dropped myself.
Well, that's not what we want. We got somebody coming on?
We're back. So I've dropped the line here. If I see a Burrow Cohen in the chat, how do I join? So the link has been dropped. I agree on Fletcher Cox, though, man. I love the fact that he just came and went to work, and just kind of, he's just one of those kind of players who just got the job done. His leadership, I thought, was very apparent, and yeah.
My favorite thing about him, and I know we can get into the next Eagles Hall of Famer after this, but my favorite thing about Fletcher Cox recently, what's up, man?
Burrow.
Oh, what's up, Malik?
Well, folks, welcome. We have our first guest of the episode of the show in week 7. Burrow Cohen, thank you for joining the show, man. Welcome to Processing with Sam and Malik.
What's up, fellas? Glad I'm finally able to hop on. I caught the tail end of that Sixers talk.
Gotcha.
Not to throw you guys off the agenda, but just did want to mention that was a huge dub for them tonight because, just flirting with that, falling out of that 6 seed, and just got to hold the ship down for a couple more weeks, hopefully.
That's it. That's all it comes down to.
Well, looking at when you looked at this time and Embiid is out, and you look at a game like this on the schedule, like this has an L next to it.
Yes.
Any of those wins that they can chalk, and most of the ones that I had W's next to, they have been winning. Not all of them, but most of them, like beating your Charlottes and teams like that, and Washington's, etc. But I think we got Washington coming up.
We got to take care of business.
I'll run this. Bro, to your point, let me run down the schedule for you real quick.
And here's what Malik was saying about that, because I think you guys have echoed the sentiment in terms of the Sixers are obviously all in for getting out of this play-in scenario, right? And the evidence is you have 38 minutes from Nick Batum, 38 minutes from Kelly Oubre, 41 minutes from Tyrese Maxey, 35 minutes from Kyle Lowry, right?
0 from Harris.
Listen, he's a street closed. Tobias Harris has it's been the Tobias Harris that where he has really, really strong performances. Listen, what was it against the Dallas Mavericks? That was that the game where he actually was a contributor in a prime time game. So I mean, he shows the flashes. I think the frustration with Tobias Harris is that it's not every night. You don't know which version of him you're going to receive, and sometimes the team does have a different kind of bounce when he's not on the floor. If he's not going well, I'll put it.
The scary part though is if he's not going well, it's like Kelly Oubre next man up. Dog, I don't really know that I want Kelly Oubre Kelly Oubre's got one button on his control, dog, and it is shoot. Like he ain't passing, he ain't doing nothing else. He got like if there's the old school Nintendo with the A B, he just has B, dog. There is no A at all on that.
Yeah,
It's just put the rock.
But at this point, like he's benched. Harris is benched. Okay.
Oh, you think if he comes back, he's benched?
No. Tonight he was the coach's decision. He was benched.
No, he was in street clothes.
Yeah, if you look on the box score, did not play coach's decision. He could have played tonight. He's gotten benched a couple times in the past few weeks.
That's fair. I don't mind it. Sometimes you need the reset button.
Yeah, but look, the organization has understandably been afraid to go there because you're paying this guy like $40 million a year. But like, at a certain point, you got to do what's best for the team. And so I respect Nurse for that. Well, bro,
let me run down. Bro, let me run down.
Let me just say this about the 60 because it's not so much about, to me, it's not so much about avoiding the play-in. It's about the matchup in the first round because I don't want Embiid coming back, trying to play back into playing shape and having to go up against the Titans of the East, which are obviously Boston and Milwaukee. The Cavs, we can handle, I think, with not 100% Embiid. And by then, okay, now you're getting another couple weeks out and he's closer. So, sorry, go ahead, Malik.
I'm going to ask you just plainly, right? So let's say Embiid is, we're March 18th today. So I'm going to give you a quick, let's do W's and L's against the football schedule, right? W's and L's. And so we won't look at the record the rest of the way. Let's just do the next like 10 games. So hit me with the next, I'm going to hit you with the next 10. So we got this at Phoenix on Wednesday.
L.
At Los Angeles on the Lakers on Friday.
L.
At the Clippers on the Sunday.
L.
At the Kings on the Monday, back to back.
It's got to be a dub. But the problem is that they've really struggled on these West Coast trips.
Well, so you got your next 5 at Phoenix, at the Lakers, at the Clippers, at the Kings, and then home against the Clippers.
Yeah, that's a 1-4 for me.
I mean, that's real. And then going back to the point that we were just talking about with the Cavs, you got the Cavs. So you got the Kings on a Monday in Sacramento. You come home to play the Clippers. So now you got 1-5, right? And then at Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah, I think optimistically out of that stretch, maybe they steal one. They could steal one against the Clips. They play the Lakers tough. The West Coast is, they've not fared well. Even with Embiid, they didn't fare well on those West Coast trips. I think the time throws them off and, being out of their comfort zone. So, yeah, you could be looking at like 2-5 out of that stretch.
No question. Like, they're going to have to really go out west and do work because otherwise they're going to come back and they might be – 8 might be ideal at that point in time. Because this
where does that stretch put us at date-wise? I couldn't see the screen you put up.
So if through the end of the month, through the end of March, we got, like I said, Phoenix, the Lakers, at Phoenix, at the Lakers, at the Clippers, at Sacramento, home against the Clippers.
You guys see this?
Yeah, we got you now.
All right, so we're at Phoenix on the 20th, then at LA.
This is rugged.
This is bad. Sacramento, they're going to run us. Then we host. I'm actually going to that game against the Clippers.
This is the third game. This is the third game in 5 nights.
Interesting game at Cleveland because we've owned Cleveland with or without Joel Embiid, and I think that's another reason the matchup is favorable. But to be fair, Cleveland does have bigs. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how this game is played by both teams if this is a potential first-round matchup.
Right.
Like, teams go for it, or are they vanilla? I'm always intrigued in this matchup against OKC. I just think that, the Heat again, I think this is going to be a dogfight. So, we beat the Heat tonight. I don't know if I see us in Miami unless Joel Embiid is in for this stretch, because this is the first week of April. And this is what they were talking about, him potentially being available. This could be a game back for Joel Embiid, April 2nd.
Yeah,
at home,
I think
having OKC come to town.
I think it's highly optimistic to think that bordering on unrealistic that he's going to be back before maybe like mid-April.
But the season's over on the 14th.
So you're talking about
So
maybe somewhere.
I mean, well, just to be fair, mid-April there is no more regular season.
I thought
So
really is that the last game, the 14th?
14th. So if he's coming back to play before the playoffs, then to me that April 2nd date makes sense. Bring him back home against OKC. It's a prime time game, TNT. This is when the big fella returns. He doesn't play at Miami,
No.
right? Memphis, maybe he gets some run at Memphis so we can still, again, get the win. Of course, he's going to let go at Wemby, get the win.
He's not playing it back to back.
Right. So he'll probably sit this.
You probably sit Memphis because Memphis.
He'll sit Memphis.
He'll sit
Memphis. He'll sit Memphis even if he sits Miami.
Yeah.
You know, but he'll definitely play Wemby. The NBA won't allow that to happen. I mean, he'll play because he'll be healthy and ready to go. They'll probably sit Detroit. I would play against Orlando, and I would even, depending if we need him against, the Nets for seeding.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to play these games, like, most of them, because he's got to get himself back into shape.
And we need the wins. Like,
okay, so
we need wins. He needs to get in shape.
So without doing the whole wins and losses and looking at everybody else's schedule, the margin for us to stay in the top 8 is razor thin.
It is.
So unless he's going to go out, they're not going to go 500 the rest of the way.
Right. But the thing with that is, that is the benefit of the plan, because they're not obviously not with Joel. They're not a play-in team.
Right.
So you put them in the play-in. I don't care whether they're 7 seed or 10 seed. Like, they should have an advantage over whoever they're playing, and they should be able to survive that. Again, the problem is, to me, it's
they
like
a first round matchup.
And I mean, of course, crazy. You never know what's going to happen. They got to play it out. But like, I think that the bottom line is, as disappointing as it is, the way this season started is, I mean, I don't, Sam, you probably know, because I don't place bets anymore. But like, what the odds are right now for them to even make it to Eastern Finals is probably crazy.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. I at the beginning of every season, just for full transparency, folks, and you might want to look into it. Just put down a little bit of dollars on your favorite team and just see what happens.
I mean, it might be illegal in Texas, but I got a guy in PA. I got a guy in PA.
Track it as it goes throughout the season. So, at one point my bet had value. Now it's like, they're offering me pennies on it because it's like, yeah, right, the 76ers actually have a chance. But let the big fella get back in the mix, and I think the odds would jump significantly.
I'm just gonna say that real quick, Sam, just as a note, and bro, if you with us, that'd be what's up. Let's just make sure we have this conversation before the next season. And we could definitely do this again for the Eagles, when we might want to talk about putting a few futures down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Got this tax return coming. I'm trying to spend some money.
As much as I'm sitting here, like, with not a lot of faith that, the season. I mean, as soon as Joe went down, and it's so frustrating because, Sam knows, but like, I've had the season ticket holder for the past 5 seasons, and like, so much, just not just money, but like heart invested in this team. And I say, like, I've never had such a love-hate relationship as I've had with anybody, really.
Yeah, I feel
Sixers of like, of just like frustration and heartbreak, and like every time, as soon I was out at the end of last season, like, and they get you because you gotta buy in.
You gotta renew
in like February. So like,
yeah, hey bro, you might have an email after this win tonight. They might have hit you tonight.
By the time, well, we already cut it. We already cut it. So, but here's, like, because I just can't, it's not responsible at this point anymore. But anyway, but like, so I was so mad and disgruntled because the way the last season ended, like, you had Milwaukee out of the way. We had Boston on the ropes. We had it. It was right there for the taking.
Yeah.
And to me, there was no more excuses for Joel Embiid. You're on the court. You have a 3-2 lead. You like don't blame it on Harden.
No, can I tell you what happened to
on
me?
drama. Like you can't blame it on Doc. Like you're the
Listen,
MVP now. It's on
bro.
you. And like I was out. I was like, I don't care. Sell my tickets for this season. I'll take a 30% hit. I don't want to go. I don't want to see it. And then they hire Nurse, and then
You're
Joel.
back. Let's
Joel
go.
and then Joel is playing like on another world from how he played his MVP season.
Jump out the box 8-1 without even making the move for James Harden, right? So it's just a roster spot that they haven't even fulfilled yet in this team.
But both y'all saying, listen, like this is what it is, man. Like, bro, real talk. Last season against Boston in the playoffs, I forget where I was. I might have been coming there, I think, to see my family, whatever it was. I'm on an airplane watching Game 6. Dog, I almost got arrested by the marshal because this game was driving everybody crazy. Like, we're all on a flight back to Philly, and I'm yelling and screaming. The woman next to me doesn't care nothing about the fact that I'm a fan at all. She just knows I'm infringing on her space, and I'm about to catch a Homeland Security case because nobody on the Sixers wanted to get a bucket. Yeah. I completely feel you, but that's just what it is, man.
But like, so you know, and then Joe goes down, and it's like all over again. It's like as soon as I start to believe, I get kicked in the stomach again. And but with all that said, but next year we started this line of talking about next year and futures. Man, Joe's healthy going into next season. They got a bunch of cap space. That Toby contract's off the books. They're going to be loaded up. Their futures might not be that great, like not that good of an investment. They're probably be top 5, you know, every year. Going into this season.
Hey, bro, we sound like
we're already doing it. It already started.
And of course, next year I said this is what's going to happen because we gave up our tickets, and of course, next year is the year they're going to go win.
Hey, don't worry about it, man. You got that Tobias email.
Plus, maybe you had to do that for us to win. So thank you.
Yeah,
you might have been the jinx, bro. You might have been the jinx.
Say to all the listeners and all the persons watching, what you just heard is a firsthand account of a Philly sports fan. This is the agony. This is precisely the love-hate that we talk about.
Just described
the show.
He just described
the show.
The Charlie Brown of being a Philadelphia dog. Lucy, aka the Philadelphia Sixers, the Eagles, and the Phillies will hold that ball right out there in front of you to run up. Get all gassed up and boom, they pull it right from underneath you every single time.
Well, bro, let me ask you, if you have a few seconds to hang out, let me just say a few things to the listeners here. Again, folks, we've dropped the link in the comments. So if you want to join, we just ask that you cam up. So I'm gonna offer another take here, Burrow and Malik, and I want to hear Malik's take. I'm gonna give a take, and Burrow, you can chime in on it as well. But Malik, here we go. Howie Roseman, because again, you mentioned Howie Roseman in one of our earlier episodes in terms of a person who is should be part of the possible indictments. In terms
this is his season.
Correct.
Listen, hold up. Let's be very clear. First of all, Howie Roseman is my favorite Hebrew since Jesus Christ. Like that's my man, right? So let's keep it all the way real. But if the Eagles went and signed something like 9 or 10 guys, right? Like we know Barkley and we know Devin White and all that, but they went and signed something like 9 or 10 dudes between backup linebackers or special teams players. They brought back CJ, GJ, whatever it is. They brought in the receiver from Devontae Parker from former Dolphins or whatever. So they went and got 9 or 10 dudes. Yo, an active roster is 53 cats, right? So we haven't even hit the draft. So you're talking about at least, 15 dudes today, probably, if nothing else changes, that are going to be on the team that weren't on the team last year. So Howie Roseman woke up and chose violence. So like he really said, yo, I'm not doing this with these same dudes. He decided to turn a little less than a quarter of the roster over. And that's in addition to all of the coordinators they moved on from, right? And whatever philosophical changes that are part of that. They probably was changing lunch ladies. Like, yo, he was not playing. So I believe, he's playing chess. I also believe that he knows there's urgency behind it too, because you don't get too many rides to do that kind of turnover again if it fails multiple times.
Malik, I think I'll just first say I think that's a very strong take. I agree wholeheartedly that it was evident that he felt that this collection of players is not good enough to get it done, regardless of scheme. I need better players. I need to make upgrades at certain key positions, and I'm going to swing for the fences. So I agree with that sentiment entirely. And to your point, even in terms of the coordinator scenario, it's like the Eagles never had a culture problem in terms of a strong organization. I think what they just need now is a football culture in terms of what is their identity. That team was absent in identity for an entire
You make a, I want to I want to add something to what you just said because it was such a really good point. Saquon Barkley said during his press conference something like the Eagles were 11-6 and it was a down season. I don't know if anybody caught that during his press conference.
I didn't.
And an 11-6 record after being off of a Super Bowl year and being considered a down season, most teams in the league, most fan bases probably would have been like, yo, we're gassed up for that. Like, they'd have been hyped for that. He was looking at it like, yo, I stayed with Daniel Jones. Like that's what I was rocking with. Every day was down, not just my season, yo. And so he came here and he was excited about it. And I gotta give the organization credit because otherwise you're looking at the fact that they created that mindset where we're not going to be complacent. We're going to go out and get somebody. And they went and got 15 somebodies or whatever the case is going to be after free agency and the draft. And so it talks about that urgency. So really, really well done on the Eagles in terms of creating the culture for the aggression and for teams to recognize or players to recognize it and come join this team.
So I got a lot to say about all that.
All right, so
to try and focus it a little bit.
Hold on. If you want to, so before you go, if you wanted to, are you responding to Malik, or are you just responding to the take? Because if you want to respond to the take, let me jump in ahead of you, and then you can just take it from there.
Yeah. Go.
All right. So in terms of Howie Roseman playing chess, I want to say yes, because the other thing that he's done, which started last year with the signing of Jalen Hurts, is giving players money that doesn't count against the cap. He's just straight paying guys. It's like old school. Where's that duffel bag? You know what I'm saying? That blue chips type of situation where it's like, hey, NCAA, this is how we play here. But on the side, you give me my money on the side, we're good to go. Let me get my duffel bags. I'm good to go. Get my mom a car, a house, boom, right? It has nothing to do with this over here, something on the side. That's what he's doing. He's paying guys. Saquon Barkley got paid to come to Philadelphia, except it's not running back. It's not a high running back cap hit. And I think that's what he's doing differently. The question is, are other organizations willing to just give the money to the players? And if they're not, then he's going to run away with free agency year after year after year because he's going to spend way more money than other organizations, but he's going to be well within the cap because he's giving these guys money up front and signing bonuses.
Yeah. So I mean, first of all, he's in that position to do that because he's such a mastermind with the cap, and sets the organization up to have so much cap room for that coming year to do that with.
Cap room, you don't have any. Is there any way you could adjust that camera there, sir? There we go.
Sorry.
All right.
But no, I mean, here's what I wanted to say about, what to me stands out about what the Eagles did in the offseason. Look, I mean, they've made big splashes in the offseason before. We remember the Dream Team and all that. That didn't work out too well. But, what stands out to me is particularly, I mean, of course, it's the Saquon signing and also the Devin White signing, because these are two positions that traditionally they do not spend money on. They do not spend big money on. I mean, they haven't spent big money on a back since Ricky Waters. Like they
re-signing Westbrook probably.
Now, I think one of the things how we realized, like you said, he's all in. Like he knows that the window here of Hurts in his prime, a team that went to the brink of winning it all, a team that was 10-1 before things fell apart last year. I think he looks at it like what can put us over the top Like he wants that championship. He wants that trophy this year. And, getting someone, filling in those spots, like the Eagles I think were stacked before this. Now, obviously, things fell apart last year. In my opinion, that had a lot more to do with one, the coaching, the play calling. You had 2 rookie play callers in there
Yep.
that clearly, were not up to the job to get the job done. They couldn't adjust.
Bro,
You can put the onus on, and certainly Sirianni owns some of that responsibility. But look, at the end of the day, it just wasn't getting it done. And also I put a lot of it on Jalen. Okay. And I don't think that Jalen responded well to all of a sudden, you're Mr. Man. You're on the cover of every magazine. You're in every meme. You're Mr. Smooth.
But I feel like I think it was more than just saying he was Mr. Man. He was almost Mr. Man, and in moments I felt like he was the only adult in the room. It's like his coordinator was his guy, and then Sirianni is like the way he sometimes comports himself on the sideline. It's like who is the most mature person here?
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Jalen Hurts actually showed some immaturity last year, because to me, what happened was when he started experiencing adversity and his voice was no longer being heard, he did not respond well to that. He kind of shrunk. You saw him on the sidelines. He'd go there, he'd sit there, he wouldn't talk. Like, to me, and hopefully he's going to learn and grow from that. And then, you need to get over that. And you need to be the one who's active on the sideline. Nobody else is going to pick up the juice. You pick up the juice. You start making adjustments. You're pumping people up. And a lot of people criticize A.J. Brown for what he was doing on the sidelines. But, of course, I'm not on the sideline. But what I think, what A.J. Brown said and what I believe is that he was in there. He was the one trying to be like, yo, man up. Let's
agree,
go.
What
are you doing?
Speaks to my point, though. I think that there was too much on his shoulders. I think if there was other individuals who took a larger leadership role within the coaching environment, I don't believe Jalen would have felt.
But there are 2 points here, though. One, you had Fletcher Cox. We started with Fletcher Cox. We had Jason Kelce, right? You've got Lane Johnson. You've got, to whatever degree you believe that Darius Slay is a leader. You've got guys who, Dallas Goedert. I mean, you've got guys who've been with the organization longer than Jalen Hurts. And at some point in time, whether or not your title belies leadership, you do respect Jason Kelce's voice because of who he was to the organization, who he's been in the organization. You do respect Fletcher Cox because of who he's probably a leader, but he's probably not jumping over those guys until there was space for his voice to really fill the room in the way that he leads, right? There was he came into that.
No, I don't think you guys are understanding. There's a certain role of the quarterback of any football team.
Absolutely.
And part of the leadership component in the role of the quarterback, to me, is closely correlated to the system and the offensive coordinator. I think if they're not jiving, generally speaking, you're going to get poor leadership from your quarterback. If he and the OC, if there's an issue there, it permeates throughout the team, in my opinion.
I feel you on that. What I'm saying, though, Sam, what I'm saying, though, is that I think we have to look at the way in which you address leadership during adversity. And so the way he hold on, but let me get to the point, though, because he could take the reins and say, OC, this isn't really working. Why don't we have hot routes? Why aren't we adjusting to blitz situations or whatever it is? But Jason Kelce is in the same meetings a lot of times. He's having conversations the same way. He's looked at in a different way. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that the way in which he leads, we've got to see that maturity now, because he's probably going to be asked to do it now, where he wasn't looked to before as the same way with all of those other guys there.
I agree. So
here's the one other thing I would say about that, because I don't want to be, and Sam, you know this, I'm a defender of Jalen. Okay,
right.
People wanted to be, and this typical Philly sports fan stuff, you hit a little adversity and all of a sudden, he's a fraud, he stinks, his sophomore jinx, he's the next Carson Wentz. Come on with all that. Jalen Hurts as always, the one thing that I will always say about Jalen Hurts, like up until game, because don't forget he was MVP favorite until like week 11 or something like that. Like, has always his entire career
I
gotten
think that's
better.
what,
He's
yeah.
always improved and gotten better. And like, okay, that was a new situation for him. He got the big contract. He's the man. He signed with Jordan Brand, all this stuff. And like adversity hit and he didn't handle it well. But let's give him an opportunity to learn
To
and grow
respond.
from that,
Let's give him an opportunity, bro. I'm rocking with you. Let's give him an opportunity to come back after Tua benches him, right? Let's give him an opportunity. Like that's what it is. To Burrow's point, every single time he was leading Alabama, Tua supplants him, he transfers out, he comes back. He's a Heisman candidate with Oklahoma, right? He was brought in here year one. Nobody thinks he makes the playoffs. I bank on that dude. I bank on that dude.
You know what's funny? I still think we're all saying the same thing, and I think Howie Roseman believes it too, and that's why he decided to go in a different direction with the brain trust around him, especially in that OC hole. Point blank period. He got a more established person in that position. He got Saquon Barkley. He said, I want him to be successful. Jalen Hurts is a person who can rebound, but I can't give him the same thing. It's like I want to make sure this hits. And so, yes, I trust that he'll come back a better player, but let me make sure I put the pieces around him that he can really use and catapult himself to the next level. And so I think we all, because here's the one piece about why I believe Jalen, another reason I think Jalen struggled the way he did is because the OC is a person that was closely tied to him. And it was a very vanilla offense throughout the whole year. So if I'm a player, another player on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm uncomfortable with what I'm getting in play calling, my complaints and issues, I'm looking at both of these guys, right? It's like, to me, you're one in the same. And so I think he just felt that the issues, in my opinion, obviously we're almost speculative, but it felt to me that the weight of everything going wrong, he thought weighed on him. And I think part of it was because of the relationship he had with Brian and Nick Sirianni being
And
Nick
do
Sirianni.
you like everybody in your family, Sam?
Do I like everybody?
Yes.
Sure, love them.
You like every single person in your family?
I think
Sam actually does. I genuinely believe him when he says that. So,
bro, all right, well, I'm asking the wrong person. Maybe I should ask you, bro. Do you like every person in your family?
I love everybody in my family. I don't know if I like them all the time, but
that's the right answer, right? I love everybody in my family, but I don't rock with those dudes all the time. If Brian Johnson, who I've been playing ball with since high school, is responsible for any part of my deterioration, my performance deteriorating, dog, speak up. If there is nobody else on the planet, I should be able to say something too.
But even deeper than all that.
Right.
At the end of the day, you're QB1.
Yep.
You are the leader of this team. Nobody cares about what's going on the sideline. They care about what happened on the field.
No, wait, pause. No, that's cat. Bro, come out. Pause, bro.
I'm saying, just let me finish.
Wait, bro, stop. Bro, right from the top that we all care about what's going on the sidelines.
No, absolutely. But I'm saying when like the Bucks got to stop with QB1. Go tell Tom Brady to bitch about the offensive coordinator. Go tell Peyton Manning to bitch about the offensive coordinator. Like, you gotta, at the end of the day, like, that ball is in your hands. Like, and I'm not saying that like, this is not some sort of like, indictment of Jalen Hurts. It was the first time he ran up against and got jammed up like this on a professional level. So okay, learn from that. You're only 20. What is he? 25 years old, something like that. Right. Like, you get back out there and you keep winning. He's got lots of time. Listen, remember Peyton Manning, he didn't win until what? Like year 8, 9, 10 or something like that. Like, as far as winning a Super Bowl, getting to a Super Bowl. So like, we got short patience in Philly and high expectations. But, I have full faith in Jalen Hurts. And if we look at this offense is stacked, man. From A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. Now you got Saquon in the backfield. To me,
about to run through the NFL.
The biggest question mark that I had that's going to be with this offense is going to be Cam Jurgens, because he's got obviously shoes that can't be filled. Okay, and so what is going to happen out of that center position? Are we going to be able to run all the same stuff that we want to run? Downfield, getting blocks downfield, pulling blockers, all that stuff. Now he's obviously been under Kelsey's tutelage, and he's handing off the mantle. But now, like on that offensive side of the ball, Kelsey, he was a champion. Him and Lane are the foundations of that offensive line. With the defense, of course, you had that anchor by Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox. And like the only other thing I wanted to say about, you mentioned about the leadership of somebody like Fletcher Cox in the defense, like from being around, they just obviously like following this team as long as they could. Like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham are champions, amazing leaders, but like their house is the defense. It's not the offense. You're not going to see those guys coming and trying to tell the offensive guys what to do. They're going to hold down their own house.
I do think, and we heard it however many times. Like I think I say it to my little league kids at this point in time. Like the standard is the standard, right? So like whether or not I play defense, offense, or special teams, like we are going to perform. We are going to execute in a certain way. We're not going to make costly penalties. We're not going to make rash decisions after the play, right? So I think they can carry that forward.
To just make that statement, or are you saying it because Jalen, like that's the statement he is?
No, I'm saying because that is basically printed on every single T-shirt for the Eagles. Like everybody's heard that. Saquon Barkley, by the way.
How about that?
That
was like the press conference, man.
He was saying it. And I think that, long story short, with all of the changes, we talked about, the whole conversation was, is he playing chess in free agency? I think the idea that we went out and paid, I don't care what Saquon Barkley costs, Eagles have no problem with the money in the cap situation. The idea that we brought basically in Christian McCaffrey, it's like we saw what Christian McCaffrey did to the Niners. If Saquon Barkley gives us a little bit of that, dog, I don't care what they paid that dude. I'm all in.
I think Saquon was like evidence, but also CJ. Bringing him back, to me, it's like, oh, Howie knows what he needs to do. Like this guy left and it was upset he left because he's like, why am I leaving? And even though he was complaining the whole time away, they knew he's an Eagle. And he's one of those weird Eagles that you'll love him, but at the same time, he'll still rub players. He'll still rub his own teammates. Like he's a football player, though. Like that's why you got to love what he brings to the field, because that will help you on game day. He's a ball hawk. He knows where to be. He's a hard hitter. And he's a playmaker. You need guys.
I have to believe to Burrow's point earlier is that with all these new coordinators going from having two rookie guys to two guys who've been established, either with Fangio he was a head coach before, he was a defensive coordinator, obviously, and then Kellen Moore was with Dallas, and then he's coming from the Chargers. The idea that this guy's coming in now, you're going to want them to be successful, and so you had to talk about what do you need in order for that to be realized.
Well, you know the backstory of Fangio, right? About
he was here. He was
here.
Yeah.
And he was slotted to take over for Gannon. But because Gannon and the whole tampering thing, and he didn't tell the Eagles that he was going to go to Arizona, then Miami was able to come in and get Fangio.
Yeah.
So he left before we even had a chance to
since I haven't talked to you in like, I don't know, 15, 20 years, whatever it is. Question for you, right? If I said, Burrow, I can pay you to go to Miami and live there, pursue your profession, whatever it is that you do, or you got to go back to Philadelphia and deal with the winners there. Which one are you choosing?
I mean, are you saying if I'm Fangio, or are you saying if I'm me?
If you're Burrow Cohen,
I mean, I gotta keep it real with you. I'd probably stay in Philly. Like I'm a Philly boy.
Okay, all right.
Born and raised in like my Florida.
Ask me.
Miami has never been my flavor, but of course, it's a great opportunity for him. But I think Fangio, these football types, Fangio is one of these like, I live in the coach's game type dude.
Yeah. Sam's actually doing this podcast from Miami as we speak. So, yeah.
It's funny. I've actually never been. But speaking of 15 to 20 years ago, that's probably one of the last time this guy was. I mean, that's not even true. 15, 20 years ago is still years after the retirement of an all-time great. But looks like he's getting back into the big show. So, Malik, what do we think about the news of Mike Tyson taking on Jake Paul? Let's get ready to rumble. Yeah.
Don't ask me first because I have so many thoughts on this. Go to Burrow. Go
Burrow.
because
Let's get
I don't
Mike
know.
Tyson versus Jake Paul.
I mean, listen.
Any thoughts here? What are you processing as you read that ticker on the bottom there?
So, I mean, first of all, I'm with it. Like, I would love to see whatever. It's going to be entertaining. You know,
There's no
whatever
question
is
about
put
that.
on the screen is going to be entertaining. And you know, it's been a long time since seeing Mike get in the ring. And honestly, I think you like there. Remember, there's this old like hypothetical that people used to pose is like, would you take $1 million to get punched in the face by Mike Tyson?
Yep.
Right. And so, like, this is like that whole fantasy.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose him?
We lost him. He said it was the whole fantasy thing.
Well, listen. Let me just say this to you real quick, because as much as I may respect the fact that there's no question those dudes hustle. Like my kids buy their drinks, the prime Jake Paul, whatever it is, Logan Paul drinks. They know these cats by name, the YouTube trait, all that stuff. Jake Paul fought Nate Robinson 4 years ago. Okay? 4 years ago. Like, I don't know that Nate Robinson has been in a high school fight. Like, no shade to Nate Robinson, but he's not the same dude that Mike Tyson is, yo. And I don't know, and maybe we can pull it up while we're talking about this. Let me see if I can grab this quickly. I don't know who his fights have been against.
I feel like he fights like MMA fighters, legit MMA fighters.
Yeah, all right. No shade. Listen, no shade to any of those dudes. But he fights dudes who don't box.
Correct.
I'm not throwing shade. You know what? I'm sure.
Or I mean, he fights guys who aren't boxers. I can't say they don't box, but they're not boxers.
That's fair. So he's got, let me see, he's got 10 fights. Let me just quickly see if I can dig up my man's record.
So here's my take on this thing here, because I should bring up his record. One, he is absolutely saying the boxing federation is rigged, and there's no way that I'm willing to go the classic route of becoming recognized as an all-time boxer. Like this is a person who is using all the tools that are available to him in this day of age to quote unquote jump the line, skip the line, or just create a whole new path. To create a whole new path. Oops, I'll let you get yourself together there, buddy. You good to go? Create a whole new path of getting online. I mean, of getting in line to get opportunities for a legitimate fight. You know, like that's the end game. The end game, as I think, is that he wants to actually get a fight against someone where there's a real belt involved. With that said, I know it's going to be an entertaining fight. I don't love it. I got to admit.
Wait, what do you say entertaining fight? What do you expect to happen?
I expect it to be a spectacle. Like I expect it to be a situation where there's great anticipation. One, it's Mike Tyson fighting again. And weirdly enough, it's even gonna be more anticipation than him fighting Roy Jones. And that was one that was just like, I can't believe Roy's gonna really get in the ring with this guy. And Roy is a professional heavyweight boxer.
So if I said to you,
everyone's concerned with Roy, I'm gonna mute you, Burrow. I think you're getting a little bit of feedback.
But Mike Tyson is 57 years old. He is a stone's throw from AARP, like a stone's throw. He is skip a pebble across the lake from AARP. And ain't no way in the world, if you said, Malik, bet your mortgage, bet your children on the outcome of this fight, I'm choosing Jake Paul. Ain't no way. I've seen Mike Tyson warm up. I saw the bull Mike Tyson in 23 fight some dude on an airplane for bumping into his chair. Not a chance, bro. Not a chance. Jake Paul has not seen fury like this, yo. I don't know what's gonna, the only thing that's going to beat Mike Tyson is arthritis or a stroke. Like, that's it. That's it. That's what you're looking at.
Jake Paul is going to feel the pain for sure, and probably will not last one round, but it will be entertaining. But I do have to say this one thing about Jake Paul real quick. As much as you can hate, and there's plenty to hate about Jake Logan Paul, okay, I do have to give the man the respect that
No doubt.
He puts the work in. Okay,
there's no doubt.
Seen him fight, you've seen him train. Like he may be an obnoxious human being, but he puts those hours in the gym. You can't take that away.
We're watching real life Rocky. We're watching Rocky in real life. Like these are who what was it? Rocky 4? Who not 4, 3. 3 was Mr. T.
Clubber Lang.
Clubber Lang, right? So it's like, and then who was the street fighter that he fought?
Tommy Gunn. Come on, Sam. Sam, you're killing me right now.
So that's my point. Like, this is who these guys are. They're like these caricatures that get in the ring, and like they're perfect for video games. But the fight legitimizes Jake Paul. Point blank. Period. Like,
wait. The fight against the 50. I appreciate that. Like Mike Tyson's a real boxer, no question. But he's 57, bro. Like,
the fight legitimizes Jake Paul. You just said there are people that you would still say, would you take $1 million to get in the ring with that man?
Absolutely not. But let me make the
point. The fact that that's still in the psyche of people, this guy getting in the ring will legitimize him in many people's eyes. Like, look, Burl just said at some point you got to acknowledge he's putting in work, he's fighting fighters, blah blah blah.
Yeah, but the one thing, Tim, I will disagree.
They can look sideways at him.
One thing I will disagree with is that, I think, and I only cut the end of it where I thought about you saying he wants a real like belt shot and like trying to get to that point. That I don't necessarily agree with. Like, Jake Paul has always been about trying to monetize the spectacle. So that's why he's fighting these MMA legends. Like, he doesn't really care. Like, he'll put in the work, and again, for that I give him respect.
Yes.
But he's about, what can I get the biggest bag for to put on pay-per-view? And like whatever that is, that's what he's after. I don't think
right, but the bigger fights he fights, the only competition are going to be legitimate fighters. Like, he already beat the Nate Robinsons. Like, he's already beating the guys who really don't do it like that. He's already beating them. So at some point, he has to fight real fighters to keep this thing going, or everyone knows you're probably going to win, Jake Paul. So it's not going to be the same kind of money grab. The money grab is going to come when he fights real fighters. Now, if they're retired guys, maybe not as old.
Now, he's fought real fighters. He hasn't fought real boxers.
Real boxers. But let me say this though. I think I actually really agree with what Burrow's saying, because I don't think it's about boxing at all. And I don't think legitimization is not going to come in the fact that like nobody's going to put him on the Mount Rushmore of any boxer.
You don't think it's about boxing?
No.
You don't think he puts himself through this? Because
he is. Listen, I respect my man's hustle. I think he is incredibly smart. He is gifted a marketer. He is an incredible athlete. All of those things are true. But what's his next fight? What's his next big fight after this? He gonna fight Floyd Mayweather next? Because there's nobody else in boxing. Like, whether we like it, the sport is in such shape that you probably can't even name 5 heavyweights right now.
I agree. That's why, to me, he is. I'm telling you, if it happens, maybe we just put a Sam's Community wager on now. And so if it happens, we'll figure out what the odds are. But if it happens and he actually goes or requests a fight against an actual legitimate boxer, listen, we're talking about professional sports here, right? So just hear me out. If he can fight a professional MMA fighter, why can't he call out a professional boxer? Now, if the World Boxing Federation doesn't want to, quote unquote, sanction it, it doesn't stop the fight from being booked. It doesn't stop the fact that people can make money watching these two fighters fight. It just means that there's no belt involved. But that's where he will make his next real payday in doing this, is fighting someone legitimate. And to me, this was a huge step in that direction. As old as Tyson is,
this is his payday right now. There's no other, unless it's Mayweather. This is the biggest fight he's going to have.
He can't fight Mayweather. He'll pummel Mayweather. Who's going to be interested in him seeing fight Mayweather? After you fight Mike Tyson and then you fight Mayweather.
I do think, first of all, he may not ever fight again after this fight, because Mike Tyson is not playing. And like Mike Tyson's mentality is he's a killer, you know, and he's just pissed off that this dude, you know, Mike Tyson gonna take the bag too, but Mike Tyson's like, listen, I'm about to end these shenanigans. So
Yo, and you know what? Wait, somebody, I can't remember if it was you or if it was Sam who brought up Roy Jones. I saw that fight. And you mentioned, Sam, you mentioned Rocky. It was clearly, it was evident to me that there were stipulations on that fight. Like, yo, Roy Jones has a family. Don't hurt him. Because, yeah, man, if you go back and watch that again, there were multiple spaces in which, like, Mike could have put this dude through it. Like, real life changes. And it was like, yo, this is an exhibition. You know, my pastor's here. My mother-in-law is here. Like, don't do this to him, right? Like, he's got a lot to live for. If those kind of qualifiers are not on this fight, Jake Paul's a real dude, and I'm 100% certain he's going to go work. There's no question about it.
See, Roy was swinging.
Yeah, well, Roy ain't swinging the way Roy was swinging when he was Pensacola fighting Roosters, Roy Jones.
I'm just saying, if you're in a ring with somebody and the other guy's swinging and he's a professional fighter, I mean, how much of it you really just? It's not like that he's playing with a puppy now.
Listen, well, let me put it like in this context. I don't know how else to say it. Sam, you are a retired Hall of Fame basketball player at your school.
I got what you're saying. I already understand. I get it.
Right?
I get it.
I don't know if you've ever played against somebody who is like a Duke 5-star or somebody who is in the league or whatever it is. No shade to you. But that is like when I pull up in my little SUV with my 2 kids in the back, and next to me, I got a nice car, but next to me at the traffic light is a sports car with no kids in the back. It's a different animal, dog. We not moving the same way. We just not.
Yes, except he was a heavyweight. He was a heavyweight champ. I mean, it's
Roy Jones?
Yeah.
Roy Jones was a heavyweight.
He was towards the end of his career for like a 6-minute,
like 60 seconds going to 60.
Yeah.
But it's the same.
He beat some.
Once that dad gun came in.
Yeah, he beat somebody. He beat somebody who shouldn't have been there. It was during the down years of the boxing where it's like, does anyone fight? Is anybody in shape? You know,
anybody for a match like
George Foreman, got his title at 50. But yeah, so so here's how we'll go into the show, bro. I want to thank you for joining us, man.
All right, so sorry, I know we're up against the end, but I missed the Fletcher Cox combo. Can I just real quick tell you my favorite Fletcher Cox story? So let me tell you just a couple quick Fletcher Cox stories.
Okay.
So one, I've met Fletcher Cox a couple times, right? And I was fortunate enough to be at an event where I met the team that went to Super Bowl a couple years ago, and I got to hang out with all of them, the whole team, and everyone super gracious. It was the launch of Jason Kelsey's nonprofit Underdog, and everyone's super gracious. They're all giving out autographs, like they're all hanging out and talking. And Fletcher Cox, I met him once before, and he was the same way. And I went up, I'm like, oh, Fletcher Cox, like, love you, legend. Like, can I get your autograph? And this man just like stares at me, like totally no emotion on his face, and just like, all right. And signs the football. Like, totally just like, all right.
Where you going, bro?
Yeah, exactly. But the best Fletcher Cox story ever is the 911 story. Neither of you guys know that story?
Of when he called 911.
When he called 911. Yeah.
Why don't you tell it?
So Fletcher Cox messing around with this girl. I don't know if it's the girl who's his girlfriend now, but this was like a couple years back. And this girl had like a crazy ex, right? And so he's at his house in New Jersey, and he's got the girls in the house, and this crazy ex comes like looking for the girl at his house. Right now, I don't know if he knew who Fletcher Cox was or not. He just knows that this girl that he's obsessed with is with this dude, and he's trying to get into the house to get at the girl. So Fletcher Cox calls 911, and they're like, 911, it's your emergency. He's like, Yes, man, there's an intruder. He's trying to get in my house, trying to bang on the door. And then she's like, okay, are you in a safe location? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm sitting here. I got my shotgun in my hand. He's like, just like, this guy's trying to get in. He won't stop. And they're like, okay, well, the police are on their way. Just make sure that, you stay in a safe location, stay out of sight. And he's like, man, I'm Fletcher Cox. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about him. Because if you come to that door, you would be taking it. You would be calling a hearse, not the cops. And that whole call's live. You could probably still find it on YouTube.
It hit sports radio like wildfire, man. It was beautiful.
I don't remember that. Oh,
yeah.
Shout out to Fletcher Cox.
Well done. And you could tell from his voice, he was not perturbed. It's like he was calling for the other guy.
Yo, so I love how he went out with his petty John, where he was like, when the Niners lost, he wasted no time throwing shade online at Deebo Samuel. I loved every minute of that.
What did he say?
Oh, he was talking about y'all still ain't get it done. Keep my name out your mouth, boy. Blah blah blah. Like I don't even know if the clock hit 00 before he hit send on the tweet. Like I love it.
All I know is that when the 49ers beat us, it changed our life. It changed that our team, we got changed that day. That day we were no longer the same. But it's all good because it's a new season, it's a new day, and as fans, we get bought in just that quickly. However, as always, as the show goes, processing. What are we processing? And interestingly enough, this week I shared with Malik what I was going to share this week on processing. And, it's actually going to resonate with Burrow as well, just because of his background. But for those who don't know, a few weeks ago, we had sort of a very rampant shooting scenario in the cities of Philadelphia where high school age children within a week, 11 people shot, two separate days where people were targeted as they were riding public transportation, which we call SEPTA here in Philly. And a very shocking ordeal, to say the least. It definitely hit close to home, as the first incident occurred right outside a church, which is also a daycare where my own son attends. And so just the proximity of it and realizing how careless of an action it was, and just no regard for anyone, just speaks to just the level of brazen activity that we have seen in recent dates, but also I think just an overall awareness around, for me, the state of our young people and just the need to really get our arms around them in terms of purpose. Like that to me is what screamed at me when I thought about the idea of actually approaching people while they're waiting at a public bus stop. Like, this is not on school grounds. This isn't, and not that that's worse or better, but I mean, there's no, like, all of it is wrong in any way, shape, or form, and yet there's no thought of there's just no thought, right? Like, you're just watching, you're just watching something that from beginning to end, you just want to know, at what point was there anything just whispering, what am I doing? What am I getting in this car to go do? I'm actually physically going to wait at people at a bus stop. Like, the whole, all of it, it's just, it's sobering in terms of understanding that this is what we're up against every time we walk outside our doors, and so just being more vigilant, having more understanding, realizing that if you see something strange, more than likely, like, notice it, don't discredit it. But then also realizing the fact that my children are so much younger than the individuals that participated in this event, but this is what they're growing up into, where these are the young people above them. This is how they are behaving and carrying it on. And what's that impact going to be long term, in terms of how they understand school life. What is even, I don't know. My mind just continued to go and go and go. And so I'm actively processing this, folks. This is a real time situation. We're only a few weeks away or removed from the events. There have been arrests made. There are still people that are at large, and it's just, this is the state of where we are. 11 people, young people, juveniles, people in high school age, shot with fatalities, and so it's just, I'm processing, folks.
I saw the headline, and bro, I don't know if you know, I moved from Philly however many years ago. Obviously, family, friends. I come back there. I still when I say home, I think there. Even though I'm sitting in my house, I think there. So I still very much feel emotionally connected to the area. And when you talked about where that shooting was and how busy that intersection is and how frequented, by people of all backgrounds, ages, and so on, it's horrifying. And it's to the point where it's like, yo, why don't you have any compassion? Why don't you have any reverence or fear or regard or love or thought about anything that you were doing at any point between when you had the conversation, you got in the car, you made the action, you bought the gun, you loaded the clip, you drove to the spot? Like, why? Like, at some point in time, why didn't it come to you? To anybody? And I heard about it, and it is horrible to think, and there could be 15 different reasons and explanations, but it really has to be, at some point in time, an accountability that is by the person and imposed by a culture and a community. That's how I look at this. And we can talk about all the various reasons, whether it be race, it could be culture, whether it be education, whether it be access to whatever. What happened is inhumane. It just is. It just flat out is. And to hear about it and to see it and to know that that is not even something that is rare anymore. Maybe on that scale, but like that type of indiscriminate shooting is not rare, it's terrifying. And it's alarming for anybody who is going to try to live and raise kids. Bro, I think you're in education. I think Sam said that earlier or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm in it with these kids every day. And it's not just the Northeast shooting. I mean, the shooting at Imhotep the week before, I mean, it's right on LaSalle's doorstep, and that was it. It's not like that was a not crowded area either. Like Sam said, not like it makes it better or worse, but and let's also not forget that that the four alleged shooters were also juveniles, and that's 4 more lives. They've all been caught, and that's 4 more lives that are gone now. And some of my students were involved. Got kids that were part of the shooting group, and we got kids that were part of the victim group as well. And our school was put on heightened alert last week. There were talks of having us go virtual because there were threats of there are going to be shootings outside of our school as retribution. I mean, I don't want to say that I'm certainly not numb to it. But you get to a certain extent. I mean, I've had 4 of my kids shot and killed over the years. And, it's an ever present problem in the city. And so it's not numb to it, but you start to get, as sad as it is, like somewhat to a certain extent becomes, and again, I feel like normalize isn't the right term, but like you catch what I'm saying a little bit, where it's like
desensitized. It's not
to a certain extent desensitized. Yeah.
Because it's an experience that you've absorbed before. Like you've gone through even the emotions of it, right? Like this is not new. You aren't as shocked as you were the first time you experienced it, in terms of just like all of the feelings that overcome you in the idea of a child passing. Like I still remember attending a funeral service for a child, and it changed me. It was just one of those experiences, seeing so many young people in the service mourning for a classmate was something that, like, I realized, wow, I've never, like, I didn't even know I didn't experience it until I was in it. And I realized I've never been part of something like this before. And I'll never forget what that felt like, And so I know for me, that is not something I've experienced many times. And so,
yeah, it's not, and just like, so it's hard to explain, like, because certainly when it's been kids who I was a part of their lives and they were a part of mine, that doesn't get desensitized. Like every time that's happened, it's been harder than the time before. But the constant presence of gun violence and young people, shooting and getting killed, and that culture in Philadelphia, it's sort of, since it's ever present, it's like this lurking
it's a
danger and
doubt.
threat. It's always there. And
Yes.
sometimes like that danger comes and feels real close, like it did last week. And you just kind of pray that, you know, you pray for everybody, but you kind of pray for like the people that you care about, that, nothing bad happens to them. And it's just a sad state of affairs, in the city. And it's like Malik says, a very complicated issue. There's not one root cause of it. There's certainly not an easy solution. But I think that, we're able to do what we can by trying to make positive influences on the kids' lives that we're able to. And yeah, I mean, the rest is sort of, in God's hands and out of ours.
I think I need a drink.
I think so too.
Well, I don't know that my thought is, mine is definitely something stronger than that. I don't know that my thought is necessarily, it's not a loss of life, but a loss of rights in a way. So last 2 weeks we had the State of the Union, which is kind of, I'm a little bit of a Politico. I probably watch the news, read it, consume it, and in some way work around it in a way that's maybe borderline obsessive. So with State of the Union is kind of like the official launch of the campaign season for the presidency, right? And all of the things that are going to be going on in November. And so with that, it got me thinking about different kind of spaces that we're in and some of the issues that we were going to be addressing that's going to be relevant, whether you're an economy person, whether you're a labor person, whether or not it's Afghanistan and foreign policy. One of the things that my mom said to me, and it was the word privilege, that really hit me, because she was talking about your kids are privileged. Let me show them that they have certain benefits. And she was talking about it in the context of my oldest son's birthday. But it was privilege in a way that defined by definition is talking about a group that has the benefit of something because they're a part of that class. And I was thinking, all right, well, a lot of the political conversation around privilege or about what does impact you or does not impact you. A lot of the stuff that we've seen lately, particularly with the politics, has been about women's reproductivity, right? Their rights, their body, what affects them, all the issues around that. And that was, as a man, a privilege that I wasn't immediately concerned. I care for, but I'm not directly affected by. Not to be insensitive, but I don't bear children. I don't plan on bearing children. Ain't no changes going on over here, right? But my wife does. My sisters do. My mother did. I have friends who have. And that's something that deeply impacts them. And then we saw what was going on in Alabama with the IVF cases there. Then I was thinking, well, what's next? Because you know what? If that right and their privilege, which was secured, can now be taken, what's the next thing? And I really keep getting back to it, Sam, and I don't mean to harp on it, but it's affirmative action and it's DEI. Because so much of what I've seen in different states and at the federal level have been to remove the institutions where just in 1960, you had schools get desegregated, right? And then all of a sudden, we are now in a space where Brown v. Board basically said we are going to allow desegregation because having segregation creates an inferiority complex. It is substandard in thinking and in presence for students of a particular group to not be included in the general body. That was basically the holding of Brown v. Board. So the idea that we can't teach or have conversations or representations around diversity of thought, of the history of this nation, not to condemn, but to educate, and to say that's all got to be stricken from our conversations, from our schools, is a privilege where not even 70 or just over 70 years, or just about 70 years ago, that people had are now going to be removed. That the fact that an affirmative action, whether you are for it or against it, it really doesn't say anything about me. It says more about the person who has the problem with it, in my estimation, because it's not about whether I am capable. It is creating the space for you to even think about whether I'm capable of being in the room and having a diversity of thought and sharing my ideas in that marketplace of the classroom. And so the thought that now all of these states and all of the cultural conversations that are around the State of the Union or the political discussion or the woke class and all of these things that are not political positions that benefit me about my medical insurance, they're not political positions that benefit me in terms of like my kids' future or whether they might be able to afford a house or nothing like that or whatever's going on in the Middle East. It's about things that have nothing to do with stuff that I actually care about. It's the loss of a privilege that may impact them in their education that has completely consumed the narrative. And I'm thinking in terms of what's next as we go into the political season. We've lost women's reproductivity, right? Or their ability, their integrity in that sense. And the next conversation is going to be around the fact that you can have diversity of thought. So you are going to blanch schools in a way that we have not seen since pre-Ruby Bridges. So I know that this all of a sudden got super dark and super heavy, but I was thinking about it in the sense that this is kind of where we're going. And if you don't forecast ahead, you'll be surprised. And if you don't forecast and then do something about it, whether it be vote, whether it be encourage other people in conversation or educate somebody else, you're going to end up all of a sudden waking up and being like, yo, how did we lose a Supreme Court case? Why all of a sudden is infertility an issue that can lead to a manslaughter charge in some states? Why is a court case going to decide what can be discussed in the classroom? Those things are like the next step in the evolution of what's the next thing that's going to be at stake in November. Loss of privilege.
I think you're expressing what is on your heart and mind, man. And I think this is the reason, one of the reasons we wanted to do this podcast, because we are processing, as we've grown and developed and take on more responsibilities, first as husbands and then fathers, and just in life as either supervisory role or educators, being responsible for molding children. I mean, whatever the case may be, as we understand sort of our role within society and it largens in terms of our responsibility, different decisions have a different impact on how you manage those things. And I know for me, growing up, I've gone through a gauntlet of changes and feelings relating to how I align, in terms of legislation, et cetera, and so I think this is because to your point, this isn't the first time you sort of mentioned it. And I'm glad that you're staying parked where you need to stay parked. There's something that, you need to flesh out in terms of what is happening. You want to bring awareness around certain things that a lot of times people who aren't as invested aren't aren't looking at the details. As they say, the devil's in the details. They're just sort of showing up at the campaign and see who has the sign, who has the most ads, who's getting the most coverage, what name do I hear the most. It's like, oh yeah, that's that guy. And so
If you are to your point, and I certainly don't mean to be monotonous in this,
sure.
if you are abstaining from a discussion on a particular issue in some way that is privilege, and I'm not talking about black, white, I'm talking about just in general, like it doesn't affect you. You have that right to not participate in it because it doesn't affect you. Assuming you care about what affects you in your livelihood, or your day-to-day, or what goes on in your home, you are brought into the discussion. If it doesn't, that's a privilege to be able to abstain from it. That's in essence the definition of it. If these conversations around whatever issue that whatever politician or political party you align with come up, and you are able to prioritize unemployment, medical insurance, COVID response, whatever mattered to you in the last 2 to 4 years, whatever the case might have been, those are issues that you prioritize. But there are certain fundamental rights that we thought were fundamental that all of a sudden we've seen removed from the privileges that we've had as members of this country, right? Women's bodily integrity, what we thought was a sound decision in Brown v. Board, right? In terms of education and desegregation of the classroom in school, institutions of higher learning. All of a sudden, those privileges are being revoked. So do you prioritize like, yo, I can't really find a job even though unemployment's at its lowest rate in the last 4 to 6 years? Or am I concerned about like the guarantees that make this country or have made this country actually great? Right? Those things that are being removed, if you're not focusing on those things and are concerned about over here, yo, you are living in privilege. And I'm not saying it to be critical of what I'm saying to identify your space and walk in it. That's all. For me right now, it's particularly hard because I see it.
But you're aware of these things.
I'm aware of it. Yes. I'm
But
very aware of it.
privilege and ignorance isn't the same thing. The reason you know this is because you know this. There could be others who are impacted who just don't know that they're impacted by this. They don't know the conversation. So they're not living in privilege. They're living in ignorance of the details of what's transpiring. So I mean, I'm just saying that you are very much immersed in it. So from your perspective, it's hard for you with the information you know for someone to sit on the sideline based off of what you know. But I'm just saying there are millions of people who do not know what you know, and that's why they're on the sidelines and they just show up and vote based off of what is shown during the election cycle, not when I'm watching C-SPAN or looking at different legislations and mining through the actual information to understand what's really happening. Most people don't have that level, don't follow politics to that degree.
Well, dog, I need like a Newport
Maybe
and
the
some
State of the
brown
Union
liquor right now.
is the big event, right? The State of the Union might be the big event, and then when the campaign trail heats up, they'll tune in.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. So,
But you are one of the people who are bringing it to people's attention. So people who are tuning into our show now, they have a perspective of something that they may not have known on their own.
Yeah, I think just what I understand the point Malik to be making is like if you are in a place where you are living in ignorance of whatever the issue might be, okay, then that in itself is a privilege, because if you are not, if these issues are there are people who these issues are pressing for right now and whose lives they're affecting right now. And so it's kind of like, do we, and I, and I think it's human nature. A lot of people is like, I need to deal with what's in front of me and what I'm dealing with right now. But there is always that threat looming of, are there things we take for granted that if we take them for granted might not be there one day?
Yep.
And so just thinking about that is what it made me think about, at least.
Well, like it's so, I mean, we all had the benefit of going to Shelton, right? Shout out to Shelton High School, where like it was probably the United Nations up in that thing, right? It looked like one old sappy ass Gap commercial, right? With like black and brown and white and Asian and Hispanic. Like it was fantastic. And there was a regard for, not that everybody got along, it wasn't always love, but a lot of times there was a certain sensitivities around, cats in their position or their families or their background or their religious beliefs or whatever the situation was. That's why a lot of the times whenever anybody's like, bro, I haven't talked to you since probably we graduated, maybe once after that. And I'm glad you're here, right? Because you can have a certain level of like deference, concern, or regard for somebody, even if it doesn't directly affect you. And the fact that you can be ignorant of certain privileges that may directly impact you or more likely impact your fellow man, that is a part of what builds up our society. The fact that I care about, like, I am my brother's keeper in a way. I want to make sure that you can still protect your wife, protect your children, protect the sanctity of your classroom,
Right.
protect certain ideas.
The same for everybody. We know this. We
Say
know
again, I
this.
missed what you said. I'm sorry.
Protection doesn't look the same for everybody.
No, but I'm talking, I didn't say take a position so that whatever the protection may be. I'm talking about
right, but I mean,
ignorance
of your family is right, but even protection is an issue, right? In terms of what protection looks like. There's certain states where you don't need a license to do anything and you can carry. Conceal it like so, and it'll be under the guise of protection. Hey, I'm protecting my family. How can so the only point that I'm making is that you can parse through any topic. And I'm saying there's always going to be a different way someone looks at it potentially.
That's absolutely fair. But we hold these truths that all men are created equal and so on, right? It's self-evident and created equal. And so we look at these things and say there's got to be certain fundamental pieces of what makes our society different, better, more realized. And that is kind of the part where it's like, hey, I may not share your view, but I have a respect for your view. And we can have a conversation about it. We can act or do something and come to some kind of mutual understanding of it. It doesn't have to be a resolution that I rock with. It just has to be a participatory discussion on that idea. Where when we start eliminating ideas, when we start eliminating discussions and rights entirely, the opportunity for discourse just goes away. That's what I'm talking about. So like, if you aren't part of the ability to have thoughtful engagement in any way, then you are clearly both ignorant, and that ignorance is in some way.
I guess that's, I don't understand.
Because if you're not worried or thinking about any, I'll just use women's rights, women's integrity. If you're not thinking about that in any way, about what that may mean, about who that may affect.
Maybe you are thinking about it, but you have a different position.
Okay, so we're gonna prioritize. I'm not taking position, Sam. That's the part. I'm not taking position.
Right, but you kind of are, because you're saying that if this, because your position is that something you have a position.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't say you're not taking positions because
because I'm saying that I'm taking that over whether or not I'm going to raise my taxes 2%. I'm taking. I'm engaging.
What I'm making is that the position you have is that if this right is taken away, then that is a bad thing. And
No. I can see why you're saying that. What I'm saying to you is the idea about participating. Like that, like the whole thing was about privilege.
What does participation mean to you? Because again, what is the expectation of participation? What is participation to you?
I think you've got to be involved in the discourse. You've got to be involved in the process. You've got to either be educated on the issue. You got to share that conversation.
So
it could be voting. It could be participating in whatever committee. It could be going to a school board meeting. It could be whatever the case might be.
I got you. Well, different strokes for different folks, because this is not people. I mean, this is America, Jack. People have not been involved in politics since the beginning of politics.
Well,
there will always be those who don't know. I mean, that's just the reality of the life that we live. There are those who know, and there are those who don't know. That won't change. It's a universal law, And so even to the points that you're making, and that's why I can't just classify it as it's a privilege that it's not part of their discourse.
No, I understand. But the part about what you said, where we part company, is that even if politics have been happening or people just don't know since the beginning of that, doesn't mean it's not happening to them or around them.
I'm just saying,
eventually,
privilege.
Huh?
I'm just saying it doesn't mean that it's a byproduct of their privilege.
If you are able to exist in a space where you just assume certain things are going to happen and continue to be because that's what they've been, and you wake up in 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever number of years and look like Will Smith meme where everybody moved out because your rights are gone and you had no part of that conversation. Like, I may not like the outcome, but you participate. That's all I'm saying. Like, go get involved in some way. At least apprise yourself of what information's out there. That's it. Because absent that, you're going to wake up and all of a sudden be like, it happened to you. And then you're going to be like, yo, what happened to me? Why did it happen to me? At some point, you will get affected. At some point, whether you participated and you're upset then, or you are happy with the outcome, or at the end of it, you're like, yo, I just can't.
The impact of it, we don't disagree. People are impacted by things every single day.
Yes.
I'm just saying, when you say participation, I'm just curious as to what the expectation is, because
vote. Let's start on a very baseline level. Vote.
People believe some things are just inevitable.
Baseline level, vote. Just start there. Vote. And
I'm saying election time, that's when people vote.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not they know the issues, that's a whole nother conversation. That's all I'm saying. It's. But I love
watch TikTok. Watch TikTok. That's engagement. That's how you participate.
We can bring awareness.
Get your issues from TikTok. Whatever they tell you, that's what you should do before it gets banned. Get on TikTok. Get all your information as soon as possible. They're gonna take it away from you. Then TikTok is a privilege. TikTok is a privilege. All right, get on TikTok. You'll feel that when they take it away. It will happen to you when they take it away.
TikTok is not a right. It is a privilege. And that privilege is soon to be revoked.
Removed. Yeah.
Removed. Well, folks, this was awesome. Burrow, thank you so much for joining us tonight, man. Didn't know you were going to be able to join us for as long as you did, but we love the opportunity to talk shop, to talk about the things that are
Good to
important
see
to
you, man.
sports
Yeah, no,
fans.
absolutely. It's definitely good. Appreciate being able to be on. It's definitely good to catch up with you, Malik, and talk to you again. I'm gonna try and get on here again. I'll try and have a better setup next time. I would just like, I'm running around like crazy. I usually don't get home until around 9:30 on Mondays, and then I was like 10:15. I'm like, yo, where's that link at? so I'll try, and then my phone died on me, so I'll try and have a better setup next time. But yeah, I'm gonna hit the hay, fellas. Be good until next time.
Until next
Hey,
time.
man. Good to see you. Be well.
Hey, one thing I will say, and you'll catch this, is going to be pretty cool. You'll watch the highlights tonight. You might see the dunk of the year from one Anthony Edwards, who I said is going to be the face of the NBA. You said it's going to be Ja Morant. Since that conversation, he had the block of his career where he hit his head on the rim. And tonight, I think he may have recorded the dunk of the year.
I look forward to seeing it. His block was crazy.
His block was
Oh,
silly.
and wait, hold up. I didn't say I think
Yeah,
Ja
you said
Morant
he was too
is
happy. You said the
huh?
other guy. You said he was too happy. You said Ja Morant has more grit to him. He has that edge.
Nah,
That
he's got something to him different than Anthony Edwards does. And not saying that it's written in stone. Anthony Edwards is a problem. There's no question about it.
And with Cat
Absolutely no
out,
question.
this might be what the doctor ordered for him. Because with Karl Anthony Towns down,
That's
and
the piece
they
right there.
actually are a team that people now had expectations. It's one thing if you're in the bottom of the league and Karl goes down, whatever.
Nobody
You
cares.
pack it and no one cares. But the fact that you're saying, listen, I think I can carry us. Now it's all eyes on me. This might be the moment, man, because those two
That's so when we had the initial conversation, I know we're about to wrap up. When we had the initial conversation, Karl Anthony Towns was alive and well. Since then, his meniscus is no longer with us, and here we are. So all of a sudden, your boy's got the block of the year. He's got the dunk of the year. He's out here curing cancer. I think he rescued 2 puppies. Like, he's that dude. There's no question about it.
My prediction, I'm telling you, man, Anthony Edwards, he has that it factor in terms of personality. I know Ja Morant, and I agree with you. When Ja Morant gets going on the court, there's nothing more spectacular. I mean, it's like even with Kyrie Irving's brilliance, there's nothing more spectacular in my mind. When you have a Ja Morant really going at it, every possession is like you got to see. It's like AI. It's like you got to see what he's going to do because each play could be the play.
Yeah.
There's nothing simple or normal about how he plays the game.
No, his approach is crazy.
But Anthony Edwards is starting to blossom into something that I think he could really take on the other components of sponsoring the NBA in a way that I just don't think Ja Morant can carry, in my opinion. And
We'll see.
maybe they do it, they co-share, so. But man, listen, this was a great talk. A lot that we were able to discuss. Really thankful to have our first guest of the new show on with us tonight. And it's that easy, folks. So if you're interested in joining us, we dropped the link into the comment section. All you got to do is be willing to cam up so we make sure you're not a bot as we are in this era of AI. If you like the show, please make sure you hit the like button, help the algorithm so that we can share it to other people. And hit the notification button so that you know all the time the episodes are dropping. And then, of course, hit the subscribe button. Be part of the community. Again, building relationships, creating content to build genuine relationships. That's what this is all about. And you saw it manifest today in a former high school classmate hopping in, and you saw where it picked up. Genuine relationships, folks. You could be part of the genuine relationship that is part of the processing. That could be you. Join us next time. Until then, peace.